Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be swell. Also, check out the Tobin and Leroy show, weekdays to 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Yeah, that's how you speak, dummy. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Today, Junior. Anyway, Miami Dolphins today. In the words of Conor McGregor, typical rat behavior by the Miami Dolphins, because on a day where everybody is thinking and focused on Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill's injury and the first win, and Darren Waller on the elevator, very cool. So you got like a lot of distractions all over the place. The Miami Dolphins slide in here with a little weasel release that lets them know, hey, Cam Smith, nice knowing you, dude. The Miami Dolphins have waived Cam Smith off the reserve non-football injury list late on Tuesday, which isn't a surprise. I mean, you want to talk about a team that's just been dying for cornerback help. This was, I mean, you couldn't have served it up on a silver platter any more than this for Cam Smith. And instead, he is let go. A tumultuous time with the Miami Dolphins comes to an end for a guy who, just dealt with the ringer of things, from being in Vic Fangio's doghouse to injuries to whatever the hell happened here. But a year where we saw some brief flashes late in preseason games from Cam Smith, especially from a physicality standpoint, from guys who will probably play in maybe the CFL, the Rocks League, whatever. But yeah, man, you want to talk about blowing it. Just an absolute terrible pick to add on top of a lineage of terrible picks from Chris Grier. One of the odd things about Chris Grier is always going to be how he is able to find, or his department is able to find, cornerbacks from under couch cushions. But when he uses actual draft capital on it, and I don't know if that's just because we're grading it harder, because that's what happens when you are a high draft pick. But man, I mean, this is an all-time stinker from the Dolphins. And I think that what makes this one worse is that he was the first pick of a draft too. That he was a draft pick. I don't remember what 23 was. Was 23 the one they got caught tampering and that's why they couldn't draft, or did they spend that on Chubb or Tyreek Hill? I don't recall exactly which one it was. Hard to keep up. But either way, second round picks, like, you expect to get production out of them. And this guy just gave you absolutely nothing. And it seemed kind of doomed from the start. And it's one of these things where you're like, you hope guys grow up. You hope that they're going to get it. They're going to get it together. And this had all the makings of it. Hey, dude, this is your chance at redemption, and so many things, as this is going, you hope that, no Vic Fangio, someone else no, Anthony Weaver thought the same thing. And then you could kind of tell, like, Chris Grier was running out of patience, because he even brought up unsolicited this year. He's like, we're not going to hold his hand anymore. And they didn't. Now, I got to tell you, the optics of doing it on a day like this, now maybe nobody cares, but it's hard not to notice it, is like to do it on a day like today, And I know that the Dolphins' schedule is a little bit wonky because they played on Monday night, but even still, to do it like this is, it ain't a great look. it ain't a great look in a situation. Be like, I know no one's gonna think that this isn't gonna get any headlines anywhere. Let's just get rid of Cam Smith, and everybody's already distracted by the first win and Darren Waller and Tyreek Hill's injury mostly. Crazy. Speaking of Darren Waller, by the way, he was on the Lebitard show today, and he said that he said he going into camp the first 2 weeks. I'm reading this off of Joe Shad's Twitter, but he was on the Lebitard show, and he said Darren Waller to Dan Lebitard, quote, getting into camp, first 2 weeks of training camp after signing with the Dolphins, I blew my quad out. I tore my quad from my hip. So it was like, what is going on? Trying to piece it together. What is this journey supposed to be? Which is interesting because it's like the Dolphins kept that under wraps. And it's like that, if people knew that, I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, you're going to stick this out with this guy. So I actually give the Dolphins credit for that not getting out there, because now it does, in a way, make the Darren Waller thing the redemption story and the return game even more incredible, quite frankly, because like you think about already facing all the adversity and the doubt, because I had no belief. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I didn't, dude, I had no faith this was going to work. But it's kind of crazy that like this guy not only overcame the doubt of getting up to speed, but then also, oh, you had to go through a blown quad. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy story by Darren Waller, and I actually think that for the Dolphins, man, they needed some elixir. They needed some feel good. They needed some what do the kids call it? Hopium. They need some of that. They need a little bit of a something to point to and be like, hey, I'm just playing football again. I got nothing to lose. I got no pressure. Because Darren Waller doesn't really have any pressure on him. Like, I think him coming back, like, honestly, for me, Darren Waller coming back and doing what he did, that's already, like, anything else he does is pretty much gravy. It's pretty crazy that he was able to do that. But you are intrigued now, being like, all right, this guy was one of those talented guys. He is with his guy. Like, now that you see the window of possibility, all right, like what can this turn into? I don't think I want to get crazy about it. I'm curious. I don't know if they have player props. Probably too early for player props. I would be curious because he was like 5-1 in most places for anytime touchdown. But I gotta think that's gonna be even more because he was one of these things where you see it, and now everyone's going to be like, I think he's going to be the red zone target. And now, and I'll tell you, and obviously, no Tyreek Hill is gonna make the odds a little bit lower as well. So very, very interesting. I don't know what's fair as far as to put expectations, because I had 0, and now I don't want to be like a horse's ass and be like, oh yeah. Now Darren Waller is going to turn into Jonnu Smith 2.0. But that's a cool story, man. Objectively, for a Dolphins team that has not had a lot of light to lean into this year, I guess, other than Devon Achane and Patrick Paul, there has not been a lot of positive. Jack Jones is coming around and having a pretty nice season. So like that land of misfit toys at cornerback coming together and really not being that terrible. And that's, again, this is funny on the day that they cut Cam Smith and say, hey, we're done with this. You have to wonder now, like philosophically for the Dolphins, if Chris Grier remains in charge, which I fully expect to be the case because he'll never get fired. But you got to think, like, are the Dolphins ever going to spend anything more than a third rounder on a cornerback again? They're just gonna be like, you know what? Let's see who we can mold. That's the way to go, because every time we go with a high pick, it always seems to blow up in our face. So this is, or spend oodles of money or trade a lot of capital. Maybe it'll be there for like a year, but inevitably the guy will either be miserable or hurt. And, whether I'm thinking about Brian Maxwell, Byron Jones, Jalen Ramsey, Noah Igbenogany, Cam Smith, all of that stuff. Even Xavier Howard, who as great as he was, huge pain in the ass all the time with like, every time somebody got a little bit of money, he needed more money. On top of now, excellent player. But it's like everything was always a thing. So I think the Dolphins are just gonna go on this, maybe we'll just go bargain hunting on the cornerback thing and see what's what. But this thing with the Cam Smith, I was like, today of all days, this is the day you're going to announce. Oh, by the way, we totally blew that one, boys and girls. Sorry, our bad. Nothing to see here. Wow. Just truly, truly something. Truly something to see what these guys were able to do. Let's see. Yeah. That was a draft class. They only had 4 guys on that draft class. Achane still standing, though. So there is that. And they got that. Cam Smith, though, not so much, dude.